Okay, so today we're going to be talking about solving systems of linear equations and arithmetic sequences. So first we're going to go over the homework review. So problem 1. So the question was, what quadrant would point 1, 5 be in? So in the chat, please type the answers you got. Okay, so I see 4 answers. So yes, the answer is 1. So the way we can tell this, or the first quadrant. So both the x and y coordinates are positive, so it has to be in the first quadrant. We could alternatively solve by graphing the point, and we would still get the same answer. So over here, you can see the graph. We see the point is right here, and then we know it's in the first quadrant.
Okay, so for the second slide, or the second problem, we have, can a function have multiple inputs? Can a function have multiple inputs have the same output? For example, if f of 2 is equal to 8 and f of 5 is equal to 8 as well. Explain your thinking. Okay, so the grammar, the structure of that slide might be a little weird. Basically, it's asking if a function can have multiple different inputs, right, and still have the same output. So remember what we discussed yesterday. What is a function? Can a function have the same output for 2 different inputs? Okay, so we have a no. Okay, so let's look. Yeah, so the correct answer is actually yes. Yeah, so the correct answer is actually yes. And the reason why is because, remember, a function, yeah, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, so a function can have multiple outputs, multiple inputs for the same output, right? But it can't have multiple outputs for one input. So if the answer is actually yes, Shani, move on.
Yep. Sorry. Okay. So problem 3 was, a line passes through the distinct points 2a plus 4, 3a squared, and 3a plus 4, 5a squared, and has the slope of a plus 3. Find the value of a. So in the chat, type your answers. The answer that you got.
We're not supposed to use, like, I didn't get this one since I did not use one of those graphing things. We're not supposed to use the graphing thing, right?
Right. Even so, you should be able to solve it. And I'll explain it so you can see how you're supposed to solve it. So, yeah. Okay, so in the chat, I see 2 answers. I'm hoping for at least 2 more because there are 10 of you here. So I see another answer. 1 more person in the chat. I know at least 4 of you did the homework. Okay, so the answer was 3. So first, what we have to do is we set up an equation. So we know that the slope is y squared minus, or y2 minus y1. So the second y coordinate minus the first y coordinate divided by the second x coordinate minus the first x coordinate. So we can set up an equation. So a plus 3 is the slope. So we just plug that in for slope. And then 2a squared is 5a squared minus 3a squared, and a is 3a plus 4 minus 2a plus 4. So we get a plus 3 equals 2a squared divided by a. So now what we get when we simplify it is a plus 3 equals 2a. Now we can just subtract a from both sides, and we get 3 is equal to a, meaning that a is equal to 3. So you shouldn't have had to use a calculator for that to solve it. These are just one variable equations, and in algebra you will be solving, one variable equations a lot. So yeah. And
I still don't really like get this.
What do you not get?
Like the beginning part, I get the rise over run, but then the a plus 3 equals 2a squared over a. Like I did not understand that part.
Okay, so we know that slope is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So all we're doing when we get this is plugging in the values we know to be true. So we know that the slope is a plus 3, so we have plugged a plus 3 in for the slope, right? And then we know that 5a squared is y2 and 3a squared is y1. So that means we get 5a squared minus 3a squared, which is just 2a squared. And then we also know that x2 is equal to 3a plus 4 and x1 is equal to 2a plus 4. So that means we get 2a squared divided by a for that side. So all we're doing is plugging in the values. So does that make more sense?
I think so. It's still kind of confusing.
Do you have like can you tell me what part is confusing so I can explain it better?
So the 2a plus 4 and then comma 3a squared, and then the second coordinate is 3a plus 4 comma 5a squared. So 2a plus 4 is the y coordinate, is the x coordinate, and 3a plus 4 is the other x coordinate. So it's x2 minus x1, and then never mind.
Okay, so I'm assuming that means that your question was answered, and if not, or if anyone else has any questions in the chat, feel free to type it to in the chat, or if you don't feel comfortable with everybody seeing your question, you can just send it to Sai or me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my computer is not moving. Okay, wait. Sorry. Okay, for some reason it's frozen. So give me a second. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing because of that. Okay. Sai, if I make you host, will you be able to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So give me a second. Okay.
So I think I can share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure click present.
Let me actually move this. Wait, so what do you guys see on my screen right now?
I see a homework review problem 4.
Okay, nice. I just wanted to make sure it's the correct one because I have 2 monitors and then one. I'll just this one. Okay, so right. So what is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of the line that passes through the point 2, -3 and has a slope of 1/2? This okay. Are people still working? Because this was your homework, so I'm assuming you could just type your answers out. Okay. Shani, you're monitoring chat, right?
Yeah, I am.
Has anybody put anything here?
Two people have put answers, and then one person said they don't know. No, three people have put answers. Okay, no, sorry.
So first,
Four people.
I'm gonna ask you guys what the slope-intercept form is. What is the slope-intercept form?
Slope intercept isn't that the same as like rise over run?
Well, that's a slope. There's an intercept, remember? Any of you guys know it? We went over this yesterday, so.
Y equals mx plus b, so y
Nice
is equal
job.
to slope
Yeah.
times
Okay.
x.
Nice job, Wanda. Okay, so this is actually a bad color to use. Let me see if I can get like a nice color. So yeah. Right here. So you guys see that, right? Okay, so and I'm using my mouse, so it might be a little bit messy. So that's our intercept form. Okay. Now, somebody remind me what m in this intercept form is.
M is the slope.
M is the slope. That is correct. So my slope is 1/2, right? So why couldn't I just do this? Right? Does this make sense to everyone? So our slope is 1/2. So we just substitute that in our equation. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah. Isn't like what number would you use for x?
Well, x is just a variable. You don't use any number for x. Y and x are just variables. They're constants, but they're not like
Okay.
they can change. Kind of
Isn't
like
b the y-intercept?
yes, B is the y-intercept, and we're going to be getting to that. So basically, a linear equation lets us put any value into x and get a return value for y. You guys, right? Because it shows us all the points in a graph. So we know that 2, -3 is on this line right here, this line. 2, -3 is on this line because it says it passes through the point 2, -3. So does anybody have any ideas on what we can do?
We can like locate how far it is from the y-axis.
That's one idea, but another idea would be to substitute 2, -3 into the equation. So if we substitute, we put -3 into y and we get -3, and we put 2 into the x place, we get 1/2 times 2 plus b. Then we just get -3 is equal to 1 plus b, and we solve for b and get b is equal to -4.
This stuff seems so hard, like on the problems, and then when you guys explain it, it just seems so easy.
Yeah, well, that's something that we like to hear. Yeah, so all we do is just substitute m with the slope, and then we just substitute the point into the equation, and then we find for b. So after everything is done, we get y is equal to 1/2 minus 4. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Can anybody explain why we're not done yet?
Because we have to find y-coordinate of the y-intercept.
Exactly. We always have to read the problem carefully. So what would be the answer, whoever was talking?
-4.
Yeah, that is the answer, but what's the y-coordinate for that? What's the coordinate point for that?
Oh, 0.
Well, 0, -4, right? But since it just asked for the y-coordinate, you would be right. Yeah, it just said y-coordinate. So yeah, -4 is the answer. But if it were just to ask for the y-intercept, our answer should be 0, -4. But since it just asked for the y-coordinate, our answer is -4. You guys understand?
Also,
Yeah.
just a thing to remember, when you have the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is 0, and when you have the x-intercept, the y-coordinate is 0. the y-coordinate and of the y-intercept and the x-coordinate of the x-intercept will usually be a number other than 0.
Yep, and that's our answer, you guys.
Okay.
All right, so does anybody have any questions at all? You can private message me or Ishani or somebody.
Wait, we have to do
No,
problem 5.
actually, it'd be better if you guys private message the person who's not presenting. So in this case, it would be Ishani. When Ishani is presenting, private message me, because when we're presenting, it's actually really hard for us to like actively monitor the chat. Like we can see stuff, but it's hard to really actively monitor it. So we might miss a few questions. So
Yeah.
for that reason, can you guys please private message? If you have any questions, you can either put it in the general chat or private message to the person who's not presenting. So for this session, it would be Ishan.
Yeah.
So with that, we can just move on. Shani?
Yeah. Okay. So problem 5. Can you show the question on the screen? Yeah. Okay. So do the following equations represent two lines that are perpendicular or parallel to each other, or is it neither? Explain your thinking. So the first equation is y equals 1/5 x plus 2, and the second equation is y equals 5x plus 4. So in the chat, please type your answers, the answers you got. So I see 2 answers and 1 explanation. 3 answers. Can one more person answer? Okay. So for us to be able to tell, so parallel lines and perpendicular lines will always have their slopes related to each other. So parallel lines have their slopes equal to each other. And that would mean that, but because we can see that 1/5 and 5 are the slopes that, and we know that 1/5 is not equal to 5, that means that these lines cannot be parallel. However, let's see if they're perpendicular. So perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocals. So the sign is opposite and then it's a reciprocal. For example, -3's opposite reciprocal would be 1/3, right? So we look at this and we see that 1/5's opposite reciprocal would be -5. However, -5 is not equal to 5. So that means these lines are not perpendicular either. So that means that these lines are neither. So yeah, so everybody should have gotten neither.
Can you do the perpendicular rule again, please?
Sorry. Okay, so perpendicular lines, they have opposite reciprocal sides. So wait, let me see if I can annotate. Yeah, I can. Okay, so 1/5, okay, wait, let me just, okay. So 1/5 opposite reciprocal would mean it would have an opposite sign. So the sign of 1/5 would be positive because 1/5 is positive, right? So that would mean we would have to change the sign to negative. So negative would be here. And then we would have to find the reciprocal of this. So that would be 5. So that would mean that the slope over here would have to be -5, right? However, it's 5. And -5 is not equal to 5. So that means that these lines are not perpendicular because their slopes are not opposite reciprocals. So does that clarify any questions you had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember, you guys, negative reciprocal. So first we identify the slope here, so that's 1/5. And then I like to do personally is negate it. And the second thing we do is reciprocate it. So switch the numerator and the denominator. That gives us -5. -5 is not equal to 5. So we know that the answer is neither. Samantha's the eraser.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Right.
And also remember, if you forget anything like during this class, you can always go back to the slides to look at them. So like if you were like, oh, I forgot how we solved that, you can just look at these slides again and then you can remember it because the explanation is on it.
So with that, I think we're gonna move on to the review of linear equations. So remember, there are actually 4 quadrants in the Cartesian plane. So the first quadrant is quadrant 1, the second is quadrant 2, third is, why I don't know why I'm telling you guys the names of the quadrants because they're very straightforward. But the orientation or the location of the quadrants on the coordinate axis is in a counterclockwise direction. So quadrant 1 is in the top right corner, quadrant 2 is in the top left corner. So then they follow a counterclockwise order. So remember that. And then
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute. So slope is how steep a line is, and it's basically just rise over run. And remember that slope can always be negative. However, the way to tell if it's negative is if it's going down from left to right. If it's positive, if the slope is positive, it's going up from left to right. And basically, it's just change in y divided by change in x, which is equal to slope. And make sure that when you do it, like if you have 2 points, okay, x1 and comma y1 and x2 comma y2. Wait, let me just write this out. And x2 comma y2. You should be doing y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, or you should be doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. However, you should not be doing y1 minus y2 over x2 minus x1 because you will get the wrong answer if you do that. And also make sure you get the y's first, like you have the y, change in y at the top, and as the numerator, and the denominator should be changed in
For
x.
slope, you can just take any 2 coordinates and then use them for rise over run.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Right, because the slope of a line will remain constant throughout. So that would mean that the slope, no matter which 2 points you take that are on the line, will have the same, will give you the same slope as you would get with any other random 2 points. So, yeah. Okay.
Now we're going to be reviewing intercepts. So remember, you guys, there are 2 types of intercepts. There is the x-intercept and there is the y-intercept. So the x-intercept is in the form x comma 0. And remember, the y-coordinate is always 0 in the x-intercept. And likewise, in the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0. So yeah, not every linear function has an x-intercept, but every linear function must have a y-intercept. And that's simply because vertical lines don't count as functions, remember, because of the vertical line test. So vertical lines do not count as linear functions. So yeah, every linear function has to have a y-intercept, but it does not have to have an x-intercept. I think that's all we really have to review on intercepts.
Yeah. Okay. So linear equations. So linear equations are usually given in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So as we said earlier, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept, and it's the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. And then there's another form that we can also use when we are writing linear equations out, and that is, sorry, can you, point slope form, Sai, can you click? Can you click?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So it's slope-intercept form. So it's y minus y1, and y1 is the y-coordinate of a point that's on the line, which is equal to m, which is the slope, multiplied by x minus x1, where x1 is the x-coordinate of point 1. So this is helpful when you have 1 point and the slope, because you can just quickly find it, find the equation of the line, and it will always be correct.
Okay, so now we're going to be reviewing a couple of problems. So find the equation of the line if the line passes through the points 6, 8, and 9, 14. So I'm not going to say anything while you guys are doing the problem, except I'm just going to give you guys one kind of layout of how you would solve this. So remember, first, write down slope-intercept form. Second, try to find the slope of these two lines. Third, substitute one of the points inside of the equation you found and find for the y-intercept, and then you're going to have the entire equation.
Yeah, and usually when it says find the equation of the line, it means slope-intercept form. However, if you do find it in point-slope form, you should be able to get slope-intercept form from there, and it will be correct when you get it from there.
I suggest just putting slope-intercept form unless it states otherwise.
Yeah, so in the chat, I have one answer.
Let's wait until we get a couple more.
Yeah.
Also, for participation, we will be using a point system, you guys. Yes, you can get a virtual cookie.
Yeah, and we will be starting the point system after, or starting from this problem.
Oh, yeah. Shani, do we have any more answers?
We have 3 more answers, and then one person forgot to solve for B.
Oh,
Also, I would suggest private messaging your answers just so people don't copy, because I saw like someone wrote a big explanation and then someone else just copied and pasted that as part of their answer. So like, please don't please don't copy, but also just make sure people don't copy. You can private message it to me. So yeah.
I have a quick question. If
yeah.
you want to like take one of the values and substitute it for y, like would you use the first coordinate or the second coordinate?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that question. So, I'll explain. Let's say this is x1, this is y1. Let's say this is x2, this is y2. Now, there are only 2 ways to do this. 2 ways. The first way is y1 minus y. This is terrible writing. Oh my. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to make this as neat as I can. Okay, so the first way is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. The second way is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, you can't, so cannot do this. You can't do y1 minus y2 over x2 minus x1. So these are the only 2 ways you can do it, okay? So these have to be matching. The subscripts have to be matching in their place. So 1, 1, 2, 2. And I would just say just labeling these points x1, y1, x2, y2. Do you understand that? Whoever asked the
Yeah,
question.
I already understood that. I meant like, so I want to substitute for x and y. Like
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. All right, so here, I'll demonstrate that. So if I have y equals mx plus b, we don't really, okay. First, I want to choose any of these 2 points. Let's choose 6 and 8, okay? Let's just say that I wanted to choose 6 and 8. Then I would substitute those according points. So what's the y coordinate of 6 comma 8? Well, that's simply 8. So I substitute 8 inside this equation. What's the x coordinate? 6. Then I substitute that, so I get this. And then since I'm assuming you already figured out m, right? So since you already figured out m, you can just solve for b, and you have your entire equation. You understand?
yeah, okay.
And you can use either point when you're plugging it in, but you have to use both of the coordinates from one point. You can't use like 6 as x and then 14 as y, or like 8 as x and 9 as y. You have to only use one point, you know, otherwise it'll be wrong. So I think people have stopped answering. So I think you can explain it.
Another thing for the point system, I'm gonna extend on that later. But basically, for every time you participate, you just get a single point, and you can buy a virtual cookie. You know, once you accumulate points, you get a virtual cookie.
For the point system, if you are one of the first 3 people to get it correct, you get a point. And if you give an explanation, you get an extra point. And then if you volunteer to speak, even if you were not one of the first 3 people, no, if you are not the first 3 people to speak or to answer, then you will also get a point.
Yeah. I have
And
all the names written up, so if you want to just tell me or something, like
what?
just tell me when people do something, because
Okay, yeah.
actually you can just write it down if you want.
Yeah, I'm typing.
You keep track of that. Okay, so let's try to solve this, you guys. All right. So first, I'm gonna write down these points: 6, 8, 9, 14. And then I'm gonna assign a value. By that I mean like a variable. So this is gonna be x1. This is gonna be x2. This is gonna be y1. This is gonna be y2. Then I find the slope: y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So this is gonna get me, what's y1? 8. What's y2? 4. What's x1? 6. And what's x2? 9. So I get 4 over negative 3. Or negative 3. Negative 4. All right. Now I put that into my slope intercept form. So now I know the slope. So I put that in place.
Sorry. You
Yeah.
miswrote. It's 14, not 4. For 8 minus.
Oh my, that is a mistake. That completely changes our answer. I'm sorry, you guys. All right, I will. Not a big issue. I'm just gonna.
Is like if you want to use the y1 minus y2 and x1 minus y2, is it, and then like there's the other way, is that just completely like your choice, or is it like?
Yeah, you can choose whether to use y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2 or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But remember, you can't do any of the other 2 ways. You can't do any of the ways. You can only use those 2 ways, okay? Because the subscripts have to match. So here are some rules about that. Y always has to come first. So y always has to be on top. So if I were to use y2 minus y1, y always has to come on top. The second rule is that the subscripts have to match. So since 2 is first here, the x2 has to be first in the denominator. However, if y1 was first here, then x1 has to be first in the denominator. Okay? But you can choose which one you want to use, and you can just label them in your own way. And then we get minus 6 over negative 3, and that gives us 2. So now we have the slope. We can just substitute that into the slope intercept form. And now we substitute a point inside of it. So let's just choose 914 for fun, even though it's a bigger number. I never suggest putting in bigger numbers, but let's just do it. So 14 is equal to 18 plus b, right? And the reason and how we did that was 14, put that into y, 9, put that into x, 2 times 9 is 18. So then we get b is equal to negative 4. And now we have our entire equation. And that's it. Are there any questions?
So like y equals 2x plus b, and then like I got the exact same thing. So you can just get rid of the plus sign if b ends up being a negative number, and then
Right. You can do that. Okay. So does anybody have any questions?
Okay, if there are not any questions, we shall be moving on. I'm gonna erase all this. Very nice template to work off of. So, I'm just gonna go back so you can see that. So you guys can just look at this explanation, but all the things will be provided to you later because we always drop the slides for you guys.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the second problem, Shani.
Yeah. Okay. So problem 2, find the equation of a line if it passes through the points 0, 7 and 9, 4. So in the chat, type your answers. And remember, this is X, this is Y. You know, whenever you're finding the slope or, you know, plugging it in to your equation. Remember X, comma, Y. So I have one answer in the chat. So it's correct. So anyone else? So whenever you solve it, just put your answer in the chat. That would be great. So we know you're there. I think we'll give you until 10:10, which is 3 more minutes. So I have 2 answers in the chat.
I accidentally sent you a private message with part of my answer. That's not my entire answer. So
Okay, no worries. And remember, make sure to simplify. If you get something like, if you get a fraction that's like the numerator has a factor that is also a factor of the denominator, please take it out. Like, please simplify that. So, for example, if I had 6/9 or something, then that would simplify to 2/3. Don't leave it as 6/9 or something like that.
y equals -3x plus 21.
Yeah, Sean. Somebody said,
Yeah, okay. Somebody just spoke with their answer. Okay, so you got the wrong slope, and I think that's what caused you to get it wrong. So I think I'm going to start explaining the problem. So
Sean, you have the end of the future, right?
yeah, I did. Okay, so we have to find the difference between x or y1 and y2. So 4 minus 7 is equal to -3, right? And then we also have to find the difference between x1 and x2 and x1, right? So 9 minus 0 is just 9, right? I think what you did is you found 9 over -3, and that would have been wrong. That would have gotten you -3. However, the answer would be -1/3 for the slope. So we get y is equal to -1/3 x. And then we just plug in a point. So we know when x is 0, so why don't we just plug in 0, 7, right? So we plug in 0 and we get y is equal to 0 plus b, right? And we know that, or 7 is equal to 0 plus b. So that just means that y is equal to 7, so, or b is equal to 7. So that means that our final answer is y equals -1/3 x plus 7. And also, when I said earlier that if you volunteer to speak, what I meant was if you volunteer to explain how you got your question, and yeah, and if you if you volunteer to explain your answer.
Yeah, so that's what Shani did. Nice job. Those of you who got it right. Did anybody get it right?
Yeah, 2 people got it correct.
Nice. That is nice. Okay, wait, this is not good. Give me 1 second. Never mind. It's better now. Okay, solving systems of linear equations. This is where we kind of get out of our review and start actually learning more about the new concept. So there are 4 methods that we use to solve systems of linear equations, and today we will only be covering 2 of those methods. So those 2 methods would be substitution and graphing. However, there are 2 other methods. Those are the elimination and equal value methods, but you can feel free to look at those over your own time. I think the 2 most, well, I think substitution is probably one of the most useful ones out of the 4. Graphing is a little more tedious, but it's still important to look at it as a method because it can be helpful to solve some more complex linear equations. So with that, I think we can get started.
So what is substitution? So to do substitution, you isolate one variable in one of the equations. Then in the other equation, you take variables that were isolated. You take the variable that was isolated in the previous step and plug that value, plug the value that you got of that into that variable. So this explanation might not make much sense to you because it's pretty wordy. So we will go over an example in the next slide. So please make sure to ask questions after Sai explains.
Yep. So let's say that I might want to turn off the laser pointer. It might be annoying for some of you guys. Let's say we want to find the intersection of x plus y equals 3 and the 3y plus x equals 5. So some of you guys are probably wondering, wait, what? How do we do that? Well, think about this. So for both of these equations, there is a value of x and y that satisfy both of them. So think about that. There is a value of x and y that satisfy both equations. That value that satisfies both of the equations is the intersection of those points. So how do we find the intersection? Well, the first method we're going to use to find this is called substitution. And like it sounds, we just substitute values. So we have two equations. And I want to substitute a value into the second equation. So I can do that by first looking at my first equation and trying to find a value of x that will allow me to substitute, or it could be a value of y. So let's just do a value of y. So if I can just simplify this first equation as y equals 3 minus x. So remember, I'm just subtracting y from either side. And then I can substitute this value of y into this equation. So I get 3 times 3 minus x. Now remember, y is equal to 3 minus x. So 3y is equal to 3 times 3 minus x plus x equals to 5. That simplifies to 9 minus 3x plus x is equal to 5. That gives us 9 minus 2x is equal to 5. 2 minus x is equal to -4. And x is equal to 2. So we got the x value, but we're not done yet. We have to find the y value. Now, instead of starting this entire process over for finding the y value, we can do something way easier. We can substitute, once again, our x value into one of these equations to find the y value. Let's substitute our x value into this equation. If I do that, I get 2 plus y is equal to 3, and I can get y is equal to 1. And with that, our answer is 2, 1.
I didn't really get, so I got the y equals 3 minus x part, like at the beginning. But then I did not understand how you got 3 times 3 minus x. Like, how did you get that?
That's completely okay. Thank you for asking the question. So I will now use my laser pointer. Actually, it's fine. I do not need to use my laser pointer. Anyway, wait, what does this do? Nice, this is the same thing. Okay, so you see, I have y equals 3 minus x, right? I found for y. Now I'm gonna substitute this value of y into this equation. So we see 3y, right? We see 3y here. Now, basically what I'm gonna do, I already know that y is equal to 3 minus x. So pretend that 3 minus x is one value, okay? Like a constant value. Now I take this 3 minus x and I substitute that into this equation. So in place of y, I put 3 minus x because they're the same thing. Remember, y is equal to 3 minus x. So I can just simply put
I see it now.
All right. Y. Yeah, nice. And so I'm assuming you understand everything else.
Oh yeah, that makes it a lot simpler.
Sorry, another student in the chat wants you to re-explain it a bit slower because they didn't understand part of it.
Okay, so I'm gonna try a problem again. It's fine.
Oh wait, I'm unmuted. Oops.
Okay, so I have x plus y equals 3, right? And I wanna solve for y. So I just subtract both sides by x, and I get y is equal to 3 minus x. Okay. From there, I substitute y is equal to 3 minus x into this equation. Since y is equal to 3 minus x, I can just put 3 minus x in place of y in this equation. Then I get 3 times 3 minus x plus x equals 5. So now I have a linear equation, which is pretty easy to solve. I think everybody should be able to solve equations like these one variable linear equations. And then I get x is equal to 2. So then I'm going to substitute x is equal to 2 inside of one of these equations. So I actually chose this equation. I put x is equal to 2 inside of this equation and get 2 plus y equals 3. And then solving for y, I get y plus 1. Y equals 1. So then I have x equals 2 and y equals 1. So my answer is 2, 1. And if I was further, in order to check if I got the right answer, I can put these values inside my equation. So remember, 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. And then 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So both of my values are correct.
Yeah.
Does that help?
They haven't said anything else in the chat, so I think that it did help. I'd also just like to say that the reason we're able to substitute is because the value of x in the first equation and the value of x in the second equation are equal to each other because this is a point of intersection. And the value of y in the first equation and the value of y in the second equation are also equal to each other because, again, this is a point of intersection, meaning it's only one point, meaning that the x and the y values, there's only one value for each of them. So,
Are there any questions?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay, if there aren't any questions, this is so basically we use substitution, right? And with substitution, we can get the answer fairly easily. So now we're gonna go over graphing.
Wait, I'd just quickly like to say something. You can isolate either the x or the y variables. It doesn't necessarily have to be y. It doesn't necessarily have to be x when you're doing substitution. So I hope that explained like any confusion for anyone. Okay, so
You wanna
should I? Yeah. Okay. So we'll be talking about graphing. So basically, graphing is, as it implies, we just graph the equations and then we visually see where the point of intersection is. So the lines shown, click so they can see the equations of the lines. So the two equations would be equal to, click again, would be 7y plus 21x equals negative 56 and y minus 5x equals 15. So what is the solution to the system of equations if we can see it's graphed on the right? So in the chat,
actually, that's gonna be really hard to see. Now that I think about it, actually a little difficult to see. I have an idea. I'm going to go over this. I'm not trying to make it very exact.
Can you highlight the yellow?
Yeah, I'm doing that. But I hope this. I think that should be fine. Yeah, I think it is. So in the chat, where is the point of intersection? Like, what are the coordinates of the point of intersection? So make sure to put parentheses around your answers, otherwise it's not going to be a coordinate. Yeah, so I have one answer in the chat. I have another answer in the chat, however, it is incorrect. And also remember to put both your parentheses.
You put the answer up.
Oh, oof, sorry.
Oh,
okay,
that's not.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, the answer was -3, 1. So you can show it now. So basically, we know that the point of intersection or the solution to the system of equations would be right here at this point. So that would mean that we just have to find what the coordinate of this is, or yeah, the coordinate of this point, the coordinates for this point, and we see that it's -3, which is the x value, and then 1 is the y value. So we get -3, 1. So graphing is just where we look at the graph and we see where the point of intersection is. So does anyone have any questions?
For those of you who don't understand how this works, think about it like this. Every single point on either of these lines satisfy this equation or satisfy these equations, okay? So since this point intersects both lines, this point satisfies both equations. And since it does satisfy both equations, it's the solution to the system of equations. So Does anybody have any questions?
Also, I'd just like to say solution to a system of equations is just where two equations intersect. And if you have other like nonlinear equations, there could be more than one solution to that system. Just a thing to keep in mind, there doesn't necessarily have to be one.
Yeah,
So
how should I be doing a Jamboard? You guys see my Jamboard on my screen?
yeah.
Yeah.
In the chat, I can type the link to it.
Yeah. But you're gonna type it out, don't you?
I'm not gonna type it out. I'm gonna copy paste. You know. Okay. So here in the chat, you should see the link. You should click it, and I think you should be able to edit. However, I'm not 100% sure if you can. So in the chat, can someone just?
How many people do we have like in the class?
There are 10 kids, so
10
there
kids.
would be
Wait, 1,
10.
2, 3, 4.
There are 10 because
I have an audio and
yeah. So
Also,
yeah.
you guys like okay. So if you move on to there's like blank slides between the slides, and that's just to make sure none of you guys like, like look off of somebody else's slide because we don't suggest that. It's not like we want to make sure that everybody's like doing their own work so we can measure everybody's own performance or proficiency in this task.
Yeah, and also
basically
there.
let us know how well we're teaching as like a group.
Oh, okay. Wait, let me just edit the sharing settings for this. Okay, wait.
Wait, Shani, if I'm sharing my screen, everybody can look at the screen for the person who's on the first slide.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll just go to this.
Okay. So I'm changing the sharing settings right now. So give me a second.
my Jamboard like just shut down. So can you like I won't be on the slide for like a few minutes.
Okay.
Wait, after this, let's go. Let's take the break at the hour.
Right. Okay, so everybody, you should be able to reload it, and you should be able to edit the Jamboard. So reload it, and you should be able to, Okay, so okay. So make sure to write your name on the slide that you are going to take. I see 5 people on the first slide. Make sure to go to another slide and take it, right, so that not everybody has just one slide, or not everyone is sharing one slide. And again, write your name on your slide so we are able to see who has been doing work or like what work people have been doing. Okay. Okay, yeah, wait. Let me just quickly. Okay, I'll just type the questions in the chat to the person who cannot see it. And yeah. Or actually, Sai, can you share your screen with the first slide? Because it would be of the Jamboard because somebody.
You got it.
So because 2 people are unable to load the Jamboard, like it's very slow for them and stuff, you can just type your answers in the chat, and we will use the first Jamboard slide to show the work, like to explain the question. So everybody take a slide that's not one of the first 2 slides. And remember, you can use the blank slides to do your work. And yeah. So far, I don't think I see, okay, so I see one person has started, and then a couple people have written their names on their slides. So again, please make sure you open up the Jamboard and you are actually trying to do it, you know. Okay, so somebody,
How are we gonna be doing this for like 10:40? Yeah.
okay, somebody just said that they are confused. So in the chat or unmute, can that person say what their question is? And also somebody else asked, should we try to graph these? If you feel like you are capable of graphing them, go ahead. However, it would be much easier if you could use substitution, because
confused about what?
I'm not sure yet. Okay, so the person is confused about substitution.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen right now. Shami, do you want to explain that?
So should I explain it with one of the problems, or?
Yeah, just explain the first problem.
Okay, so with the first problem, I'm going to use substitution. And also someone else asked, are we supposed to find y? You're supposed to find the coordinate point, so x and y, for the intersection. So we will use substitution. So we know that y is equal to 4x plus 3 and y is equal to 7x minus 6. So what we can do is we can substitute. So we already have y isolated here. So we can substitute 4x plus 3 for this y right here. So we're going to get 4x plus 3 is equal to 7x minus 6. And also, can you guys see this? Or
So you just subtracted the y from both sides.
well, we do not subtract y from both sides. We substitute this 4x plus 3 for the y, because we know that y is equal to 4x plus 3 and y is also equal to 7x minus 6. So we're just able to substitute this 4x plus 3 for this y right here. So we aren't actually subtracting anything. We're just substituting. Okay. Yeah. So to continue on with the explanation, now we subtract the 4x from both sides and we add 6 to both sides and we get 9 is equal to, and then 7x minus 4x is 3x. So that means we get, after we divide both sides by 3, we get 3 is equal to x. Okay. 3 is equal to x, right? And now we just have to solve for y, so that we are able to find the coordinate point. So we can plug in 3 for either 4x plus 3 or 7x minus 6, but because this is the first equation, let's just plug it in for this. So we get 4 times 3 plus 3 is equal to y, right? And that is equal to 12 plus 3, which is equal to 15. So that means that 15 is equal to y, right? And since 15 is equal to y, that means that we can now get our coordinate point to be 3, 15 as our answer, and we can check this with the second equation, and we get 3 multiplied by 7 minus 6 is equal to 15, and yes, it is. So that means that 3, 15 substitute, or it works for both. It's the solution to both equations. So in the chat, okay, so the person who asked me, who said they were confused, do you still have any questions, or does that explain it? I don't see anything in the chat from you, so I'm going to assume you're typing or you're now working on the problems. However, I shall still continue. Okay, so the person said it still kind of confuses them. So, okay, so it did help, so that's good. So which part are you confused about? Is it like this like part where we substitute, or is it like where we solve the equation, or where we solve for x or y? Like which part specifically? Or is it just in general, the whole thing. Okay, so okay, so on the blank slide, like the second slide, go to the second slide, and I'll just like make up an equation, and then I will solve for the solution. So give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so say I have y equals 3x minus 7 and 6x plus 5y equals 11, or sorry, 15, or something to that extent, right? So y equals 3x minus, okay, wait, y equals 3x minus 7 and 6x plus 5y equals 14, right? So I think, yeah, you should be able to see it. So these are our two equations, right? I just made these up randomly, or these equations randomly. So basically what we will try to do is we're going to try to substitute. So we already have the y isolated here, right? So we can just immediately substitute this 3x minus 7 into this y right here, right? Because we already have it isolated, and we know that y is equal to 3x minus 7. And since this value of y is equal to this value of y at the intersection, we know that 3x minus 7 can be substituted for this y. So we get 6x minus, okay, 6x minus, and then 5 multiplied by 3x minus 7. Okay, minus 7. Okay, this is the slope. Okay, is equal to 14, right? So we now have this equation set up, and I think I'm just going to type it to make it more neat. So 6x minus 5 times 3x minus 7 is equal to 14. So you can see that equation right there, right? So now we are able to, we can just open this up, right? Since like we can multiply this 5 out by everything in here, and then we can simplify. So now we're going to get 6x minus 15y plus 35, because remember, 5 multiplied by negative 5 times negative 7 would just cancel out the negative. So 6x minus 15y plus 35 is equal to 14, right? So, okay, wait, sorry. I meant to type right x, not y. So we get 6x minus 15x is plus 35 is equal to 14. So we now have this equation, and we can simplify and then solve. So we get negative 9x equals, and then we subtract 35 from both sides, and then we get negative, okay, wait, we get, okay, 14 minus 35 is equal to negative 21. So we have 9x is equal to negative 9x is equal to negative 21, which means x is equal to, and then we just divide both sides by negative 9, and we get 7/3 is equal to x. So now we can plug in this, okay, wait. Let me just erase, or not erase, let me just type out what I have so far. So we have x is equal to 7/3, and we have solved for x, right? So now we can just solve for y by plugging it in, and because the most simple equation is the first one, we can just plug in the 7/3 x for this equation up here. So we get 7/3 times 3, and that's equal to 7. So we have y equals 7 minus 7, and that is just equal to 0. 7 minus 7 is equal to 0. So that means that we now have a solution of x equals 7/3, y equals 0. So our point would be 7/3, comma 0, right? That would be our coordinate. And because that would be our coordinate, we just want to check it to make sure that it is actually correct. So let me just erase what I have written. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I just need to erase this so I have more space to check. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to plug in this point into both equations and we're going to see if it works. Like if it actually makes the equations true. And if it doesn't, that means that it isn't the solution. But if it does work, that means if it worked for both of the equations, that means it is a solution. Wait, is there something in the chat? Okay, so you don't know how I got y, but you know how I got x. So, okay, all we did to get y, so we have this y equals 3x minus 7. So all we have to do is just plug in that 7/3 for the x. So we get 7 7/3 times 3 is just equal to, it just cancels out the 3 and we are left with 7, right? So y equals 7, and then we still have the minus 7 here. So that is equal to 7 minus 7, which is 0. And that was how we got the y value. Since we know that y is equal to 7 minus 7, which is equal to 0. So that was how we got the y. So does that explain how we got the y? Or okay. Okay, that explains how we got the y. Okay, so do you have any questions? So does that explain everything? Okay, okay, that's good. So Sai, you can go back to the first slide. Because
I don't know if we're gonna have like a bunch of time because to do this because I don't know. I don't think anybody started. Like, if you look, no.
Oh. Okay.
0 problems down here. 0 problems down here. 0 here. 0 here. 0 here. 0 here. Yeah, it's like literally like 2 people have done stuff, and actually, not even 2 people. One person. One person has done something, and it's only one problem.
Yeah, okay, someone private messaged their answers to me, and they got up till 4. So
I don't know if we have time to complete this. I think we could, I think what we should do is pick one problem and make everybody do it. Move on.
Okay, yeah. Maybe, yeah, we should probably do that. So I think maybe we should choose like
Last one.
I don't know.
Let's do the last one.
Or yeah, the last one.
Okay, I'm gonna pause my share. Wait, I have a quick question. Can you guys see me moving to the other Jamboards?
No, they cannot.
Okay, well,
However, because you
can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can.
My pause share works.
Okay.
I wanted to see if I can move to the other Jamboard. Okay, I'm gonna unpause share.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody solve this problem. So 4x is equal to 4y minus 4, and 5x plus 5y is equal to 74. So yeah.
Are we gonna have like that timer for the break or?
Yeah, we're gonna have break. However, we first need to finish this so we can get to the break. So yeah. Okay, so everybody in the chat or on the Jamboard solve the last problem, and you can feel free to put your name or like please put your name on your slide if you're doing it on the Jamboard, just so we know that you're there. And yeah. And also, when you're doing this, remember substitution. You have to isolate a variable and then plug in the value you have for that variable into the other equation. And then you should solve. And also just a thing to note, you should never, okay, so if you isolate a variable, like for example, if I isolate x, like in the first equation, and I get x equals y minus 1, I should never plug that back in to that same equation. Otherwise, I'm going to get y minus 1, or I'm going to get 4y minus 4 equals 4y minus 4 if I plug it back into the original equation, and I'm going to get an identity, which is something that will always be true no matter what. And that would imply that there are an infinite amount of solutions, even if there aren't. So make sure you are substituting into the correct equation, into the equation you did not get that from. So I see one answer in the chat for number 5, or the question that's circled. So everybody, please put your answers in the chat or on the Jamboard or something, so that we know you're participating, and that would be great. Okay, so somebody said that they're having trouble with this one. So we will explain it in a minute. However, if you just are having a small, yeah, it is a decimal. If you're having like a small block of like you don't know where to start, isolate the variable. Isolate either x or y in one of the two equations given.
I'm confused on like, so for like every single problem, it's like always like 4x equals 4y minus 4, and then 5x equals 5y, 5x plus 5y equals 74. So like if I take out, for like number 5, I have 4y minus 4, and then how would I like get the other, like how would I get the other variable?
Okay, so I'm assuming that you're asking, once you've solved for the first variable, once you've plugged it in, how would you solve for the second one? Is that your question?
No, I'm wondering like, so you have 4x equals 4y and then minus 4. So you can take out the 4y minus 4 part. But then for the other equation, how do you take out the 5y, since you can't just take 5?
Yeah, okay, so I think that you misinterpreted substitution. So we are not actually taking out anything. We are finding the value for one of the variables. So for example, in this first equation, if we wanted to substitute, we wouldn't just cancel out this 4x. Instead, what we would do is we would try to isolate this x so that we could, so we could use it in the other equation, right? So as Nikita in the chat said, we could divide it by 4. So we would get x is equal to y minus 1, and then we would be able to plug in y minus 1 for x into this equation, right? Into this equation. And then, yeah, so x equals y minus 1, and we plug it into this equation, and then we can solve. However, I'm just going to give you guys maybe a few more seconds in case anybody else is solving it, just so.
But if you divide one side, but then it doesn't work if you divide by 4 for the other side, since like.
Right, but we don't need to divide by 4 for the other side. We are just dividing both sides by 4 for one equation, because that equation will still hold true when we divide both sides of that equation by 4. But what we do on one equation doesn't necessarily mean we have to do it on the other equation, because if we do it on the other equation, yes, it might get you like closer to the answer. However, it isn't actually doing anything for you. When you do something on one of the equations, you don't necessarily have to do it on the other, because you have already made an equation that is just this rephrased, or like this in a different format. So this is just a form of this, and the way we get this doesn't necessarily mean we have to do that same thing to this side. I don't think that explanation was good, so okay, so please ask any questions you have, because yeah, as Nikita said in the chat, you they are two separate equations, so you don't have to divide both sides, so both equations by one number or by anything. You don't have to do like one operation to one equation and then have to do it on the other equation. So I hope that answered your question. However,
Oh, yeah.
okay. Okay, so I shall explain this problem now. So as we did earlier, we divide both sides by 4 and we get x equals y minus 1. So now we plug in y minus 1 into this equation for x. So we get 5 multiplied by y minus 1 plus 5y. Plus 5y is equal to 74. So this means, so we can open up the 5 multiplied by y minus 1, and then we can get 5y plus 5y, which is 10y minus 5 equals 74. And then we add 5 to both sides, and then we get 10y equals 79, because we add 5 to both sides. And then we get, when we divide both sides by 10, we get y is equal to 7.9. And then we plug that 7.9 for y into this equation so we can solve for x, right? Because this is just another equation that we had found, right? So we can get y equals 7.9 and plug it into this, and we get x is equal to 7.9 minus 1, which is equal to 6.9. So that means that our solution is equal to 6.9 comma 7.9. So does that explain the problem for everyone? And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, or just tell one of us, me or Sai, in the chat that you are confused so that we can help you.
Are there any questions with the Shani's explanation?
Mm.
Let me explain it, but I think we're running a little short on time, and I know some of you guys want to do a break period, so we'll just go to the break period. It's actually only 2 slides away, so
Yeah.
it's right here. So we'll just okay. Have a nice break, everybody.
Okay, I'll pause there. Okay, so we will. Okay, so
we'll be doing some problems as well.
Yeah. Okay, so in the chat, I will put the link to this Jamboard. Okay, let me just. Okay, so there is the link to the Jamboard. Everybody should be able to access it.
Is it the same Jamboard?
No, it's a different one. So there are 5 questions. So on a sticky note, so take a sticky note and solve for the answer. So basically, what you should do is you should set up equations for the for these situations, and then you should be able to solve for. So someone asked, when we solve systems of equations by graphing, will they always give you each line and slope intercept form? So they usually will give you the line and slope intercept form no matter what. However, sometimes they can give it to you in another form, although it's very rare. So yes. So okay, someone said, do we need to write our name on the slide? Write your name on the sticky note so that we so write your name on the sticky note so that we know that it's your answer. Okay, and also because there are only 5 slides and there are 10 of you, please put your work and answers on a sticky note so that we're able to tell like whose work is what, and also so it isn't like chaotic or something on the slide.
For some reason, I keep on getting updated. I don't know why.
Okay, so I only see 4 people on the Jamboard. So there are 10 of you. So I'm kind of curious as to why there are only 4 people.
Yeah, there are 10 of you. So, another 5 people, but that includes me and Ashanti. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And it also includes my audio.
Okay. So someone said that theirs is still loading. So that's okay. However, because you are able to see at least one of the problems, because Sai is sharing his screen, like at least start the question now so that it won't so that your lag isn't really hurting you or anything, like time-wise.
Some person's like writing everything on the Jamboard.
Yeah, okay, so please do it on a sticky note. Yeah. Sai, should we start explaining?
Yeah. Okay. So
You can do the first one.
okay. So here I'm gonna erase. Is it okay if I erase the work?
I think, yeah.
So in a group of 1,000 chickens, the number of legs is 14 more than twice the number of heads. Okay, so let's first look at legs and the heads. Okay, So how many legs does a cow have? 4. How many legs does chicken have? 2. How many heads do both of them have? 1. Okay. Let's say there are X cows and Y chickens. So the number of legs was 14 more than twice the number of heads, right? So since a cow has 4 legs, we would have 4x legs for the cows. And then since the chicken has 2 legs, 2y legs for the chickens. And that's equal to 14 more than twice the number of heads. That would be 2 times x plus y because they both only have 1 head. So as we can just expand this really quickly. Plus 2x plus 2y. The 2 y's cancel out on either side, so we get 14, 2x is equal to 14, and we get x is equal to 7. So we know that there are actually 7 cows, and that's the answer.
Well, there could be a headless chicken, but probably not gonna happen.
Yeah, when we're solving these problems, they assume that all of the animals are normal. So yeah. Okay. So Sai, you can go to slide
Okay.
2 now.
Okay, you guys try to solve this problem.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll give you 3 minutes. So a fitness center charges a membership fee plus a fixed amount per day for each day the center is used. If Claire paid $105 for 30 days of use and Adrian paid $123 for 39 days of use, how many dollars is the membership fee? So remember, set up 2 equations, then solve, and you should be able to get it correct.
Let me look at how many presentations. Let me pause my presentation here. Okay, so we only have 25 minutes, you guys, and we have lots of slides to do. So what do we, Shani, after this Jamboard, I think we should go for a
I think that after this question, we should go over arithmetic sequences because those are really important.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if we get time, or if because one of the Kahoots is only like 8 minutes, we can do it.
Let's just finish this problem and go over something else. Okay, guys, you guys have to please try to work fast.
Yeah. I know that a lot of you guys are not participating or you're copying off of others, and that's just slowing down the class because we think you're doing the question when you're really not, and you're just waiting for others or something. So please actually participate, actually do it. Actually.
Are we supposed to do every single question in order, since I wasn't able to solve this one, so I went to another one? And
we're only going to be doing this question and then problem number 2, and then we will be going back to the presentation. Okay, I think we should start explaining now, right? Or I should start explaining now. So yeah. Okay. So a fitness center charges a membership fee plus a fixed amount per day for each day the center is used. If Claire paid $105 for 30 days of use and Adrian paid $123 for 39 days of use, how many dollars is the membership fee?
Okay.
So yeah, okay. So the fixed amount per day, right? Let's say that this is F, right? Because or like D or something, right? Because like daily amount, right? And then let's say that the membership fee is M. So we get so we can set up an equation. So Claire pays $105 and these are all in dollars. These units are all in dollars. $105 equals 30D because that's the daily amount plus the membership fee. And $123 is equal to 39 D. Okay, wait, sorry. It's equal to 39D plus M, right? So, okay, my handwriting is kind of bad. So what we can do is we can, so we could have substituted, or what we can do is use elimination, which is another technique. However, which would basically be where we subtract this first equation from the second one. However, because we have not learned that, we will just do substitution, right? Okay, Sai, I think you froze your screen and it's not showing. Okay, yeah, never mind. Okay, so now, okay, so now we can do so we can isolate M. So we get 103 minus M equals 30. Okay, so let me just rewrite that, like type it out. So 103, or sorry, 105 minus 30 D equals M, and we would get that, right? So now we would substitute 105 minus 30 D for M, and we get 123 equals 39 D. Okay, no, okay, sorry, this is really messy. I am going to type it. So 123 is equal to 39D plus 105 minus 30D, since we are just substituting for M, right? So now what we would do is we would subtract 105 from both sides, and we would get 18 is equal to, and then we simplify the D, so we combine like terms, and we get 18 equals 90. So that means you pay $2 a day. However, we're trying to figure out what the membership fee is, right? So we have to solve for M now. So we know that 105 minus 30D is equal to M, so we can just plug in 2 for D. So we get 105 minus 60 equals M, and that can be simplified to 45 equals M. So that means that the membership fee is $45. So that is the explanation. So now, Sai, you can go back to the presentation.
Yeah, so now that we're done with the Jamboard, we can move on to the actual presentation. Yes, I was looking at a couple of slides, like trying to plan out what we should do. But we'll probably go over arithmetic sequences, you guys.
Yeah, okay, wait, press present.
Okay.
You can,
Yeah, of course. So we're going to be going over arithmetic sequences. So what are arithmetic sequences? So in an arithmetic sequence, each new term increases or decreases by the same thing every time. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're just positive integers and they each increase by 1. Now if you look at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, which is our next arithmetic sequence, they're all even numbers and each term increases by 2. Now so in an arithmetic sequence, the number being added to get to the next term is known as the common difference. So if a sequence is an arithmetic sequence, this common difference always remains constant. So always remains constant.
okay, so common difference. So the number you're adding is the rule or the common difference. So if you're adding a negative number, the rule will be negative. So let's see some other examples of rules. So sorry,
Okay.
click. Okay, so there 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20. We can see that the rule is +3 because we're adding 3 each time. So the next example for rule, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be 230, 207, 184, 161, 138, and 115. So we can see that we're subtracting 23 each time. So the rule is -23 or -23. So next, okay, yeah, 123, 123, 1293, 1293, yada yada yada, right? So we're just adding or subtracting 0 since it's just remaining the same. So the rule is ±0 since we're adding 0 each time. So also just a note, whenever you're writing out the stuff, whenever you're writing out the rule, make sure that you put like the sign before it, so plus or minus, so that you do not like mix it up or like get it like or solve for the right rule, but then you forget about what you actually figured the rule to be. So you can explain now, so things to keep in mind.
Yeah, so remember the numbers can actually be anything. So I think by anything I mean like fractional numbers. They can be rational numbers too, right, Ishan? They can also be rational numbers, like decimals.
Yeah.
So they can be
Yeah.
rational numbers, fractional numbers, negative numbers. So as long as the common difference is constant, arithmetic sequences can be composed of any kind of number. And about the difference, yeah, the difference can also be actually anything. The difference can even be irrational. So it can be negative, fractional. As long as this common difference is actually constant across the arithmetic sequence, then it doesn't matter what it is. And also, some sequences aren't arithmetic. Some sequences are just.
So some arithmetic sequences have like rules. So all arithmetic sequences have one rule throughout. So some arithmetic, so some sequences.
Plus 2, plus 1. So even though it follows a pattern, it's not an arithmetic sequence.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we find the nth term of an arithmetic sequence? So let's take this example. So it has a first term of 3 and a common difference of 5. So we just list out the first few terms. So click. So we can see that each term is increasing by 5. So the first term is 3, the second term is 3 plus 5, so 3 plus the common difference, or the first term plus the common difference. The third term is the first term plus 2 times the common difference. The fourth term is the first term plus 3 times the common difference, etc., etc.
Not working. My keyboard is not working.
Oh. Okay, and the fifth term is the first term plus 4 times the common difference. So
I'm just gonna use my mouse.
yeah.
So the way to find
You can go.
Right. So the way to find the nth term must be to find the common difference. Well, the nth term is simply just the common difference multiplied by the number of terms subtracted by 1 plus the first term. So it can be simplified into this equation. So a subscript n is the nth term. A subscript 1 is the, and then n is just the total number of terms, or like the term that we're trying to find subtracted by 1. That's the n minus 1 part. So n is just simply n, and then d is the common difference. So let's go back to the example. So let's try to find the nth term, or the nth term in this case would be the 19th term of an arithmetic sequence that has a first term of 3 and a common difference of 5. Now, there.
Okay, so anyone in the chat, so say how would you find this, or or actually solve for the 19th term? Okay, so because we are short on time and no one seems to be answering, we can you can just explain it,
Yeah,
Sai.
I got it. So let me get my answers. Okay. So the first term, okay, so we're trying to find the 19th term. So I'm just gonna put a 19, right? So remember, the first term is 3. And now what we have to do is take the n minus 1. So what is n minus 1? That's just 18. And then we multiply that by the common difference. So it's 5. So then we get 93. Then if I just leave my, and then we get 93. So that's the answer. And it actually makes sense. You don't really need to memorize the equation. Honestly, I actually don't even like, I didn't even memorize, just like pretty, like if you just think about it, right? So if we're trying to find the 19th term, we just have to add 5 like 19 times, right? But we have to consider that the first term, we already have the first term. So instead of adding 5 to the first term 19 times, we only added 18 times. So if you just think about it logically in your head, it makes sense. You don't really need to really memorize any formula. The formula is just there for generalization purposes.
Yeah. Okay, so before we move on, let's take a look at the equation we got for the previous example. So the nth term would be 3 plus 5 multiplied by n minus 1. And that can also be simplified to -2 plus 5n. Doesn't this look like the equation of a line? It does, or a linear equation. It does, and it is. So remember, a linear equation has a uniform slope, which is like the common difference since the output is increasing at a set rate, while the input is increasing by 1. So why does this matter? Sai, click.
Okay, wait, I need to, Shani, I get message.
Okay, so just click.
Okay, this is not, okay.
So the first formula is basically akin to the slope-intercept form, or the point-slope form, and the second is akin to the slope-intercept form. So why should you care? Because if you know about setting up linear equations, you should also be able to set up linear equations representing arithmetic sequences.
Wait, Shani, can you take over?
Yeah, you can make me host. Did you make me host? Or okay. Yeah, okay. So let me just get on the right slide quickly. Okay, so there were some problems that we were going to do. However, I think that you all can do them on your own time because I am not sure we'll be able to get to everything we need to get to if we, do the problem. So we're going to talk about the sum of the first n terms. So the sum of an arithmetic sequence is the sum of all terms in the sequence. It has a handy formula, so you don't need to add up every single term. So the sum is equal to first term plus last term times the number of terms divided by 2. So it is written as SA, so the, AN, or sum of the first n terms is equal to half multiplied by the sum of the first and last terms multiplied by the number of terms. So n1 is the first term, na is the last term, n is the number of terms, sa is the sum, and sa is the sum. So example, find the sum of the first 7 positive integers. So manually we can compute this to be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7, which is 28. However, if we just do this via an equation, we can see that via the equation it's half times 7 times 1 plus 7, which is equal to 7 times 8 divided by 2, which is equal to 28. So why does the equation work? So let's look at the same example. So we're trying to find the sum of the sequence. So notice that the opposite pair of numbers in the sequence add up to 12, except for the middle term. So 1, 11, 2, 10, 3, 9, 4, 8, 5, 7, and 6, right? They add up to the same term, right? So we can average the first and the last number to get the average of each of the terms. So now we get 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, right? So now all we have to do is 11 times 6, which is the average of each term. And we get 66 is the sum. So just one problem that we are going to do. So the first row of this figure has 1 circle, and the second row has 2 circles, and the third row has 3, etc., etc. How many total circles will be in a figure with 100 rows? So make sure so please calculate it. So Also, it would be better if you could private message it to Sai, because I am presenting, so it's kind of hard for me to check the chat. Yeah. So, okay, wait. Oops. Sai, do you know what the time is? Sai.
11:22.
Okay. So everybody solve this. So basically what we're doing is we're finding the sum of an arithmetic sequence which has a common difference of 1 and which has a first term of 1 and a last term of 100, and it and a last term of 100, and it has 100 terms. So how many total circles would be solved by calculating?
I have 2 answers so far.
Okay. That is good. Also, can you keep the score thing? I sent it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start explaining. So the answer is 5,050, right? And the reason it's this is because, so we calculate the total number of circles. We need to add the number of circles in each row. So basically to do this, we find the sum of an arithmetic sequence, right? With the first term of 1 and the last term of 100 and 100 terms.
Showing for the points.
What?
You share like a point document with me?
Okay, I did not include the Jamboard stuff because yeah, I didn't include that. So and
did
that
you
was
share the document like for the points, like people
I didn't make a document. It's just in the chat that I put it. So yeah. Okay, so applying the formula for the sum, we get 1/2 times 100 plus 1 times 100, which is equal to 50 times 101, which is 5,050. So there are problems here, however, they will take up some time. So I think we should do the AMCA problems, just so you can see how it would be used in an actual problem. So an arithmetic sequence is a sequence in which each term after the first is obtained by adding a constant to the previous term. Each row and each column in this 5x5 array is an arithmetic sequence with 5 terms. What is the value of x? So the answer choices are 21, 31, 36, 40, and 42. So in the chat, please type your answer, and please type it to Sai because I'm not really able to check the chat right now. So yeah. Okay, so okay, so to make this easier or to make this go quicker, I think that in the chat, people should write like a step that they think, or people should unmute and say a step so that it's much quicker, you know, because I don't know how many of you are participating, and I think you all might still be solving this. So yeah. So in the chat, if you want, you can write a step. So okay, yeah. Some people are still solving. So yeah. Sai, how many answers have you gotten?
Only 1.
Okay. So should I explain because like, or do you want to explain? Because like,
No, right
I'm
now
not.
I'm doing the CMP thing. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of like not being.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I will explain now, right? Since we're going to be running short on time. So basically, we are trying to find the term that's halfway between these numbers because, or we could solve for the arithmetic sequence. We could either solve for the arithmetic sequences themselves, or we could just find the numbers that are halfway between these two, because in an arithmetic sequence, we would be adding 2 of the common difference to get here, and would be subtracting 2 from the common difference to get here. So we just find what number is halfway between them. So and we do this for all these, right? So we get 17 and 1 sum up to 18. So what's halfway between them is 9. And then we see 81 and 25 sum up to 106. So the number that's halfway between them is 53. So when we find the number that's halfway between them to get to x, what we do is 53 plus 9, which is 62. And then we divide by 2 and we get 31. So that means the value of x is 31. So yeah. So does that make sense to people? You could also have done it across where you find the middle term here, and you got 13 up here, and you got 98 as the sum, so you would have gotten 49 as this number, and you would have found halfway between them was 31. So if that makes sense to everyone, I think we will move on to the next problem. So before the district play, the unicorns had won 45% of their basketball games. During district play, they won 6 more games and lost 2 to finish the season having won half their games. How many games did the unicorns play in all? So in the chat, type your answer. Okay, so somebody said B. So somebody gave me an answer. Okay, so someone said they didn't know how to solve these problems. So you have to set up 2 equations and then solve, or you have to set up an equation and then solve. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to actually solve it if you're just like doing it all mentally. You need to figure out the equations and then figure out what to do. Okay, so I am going to start explaining. So before the district play, the unicorns had won 45% of their basketball games. So let's say that the number that they have won is W and the total number of games they have played is G, right? So that would mean that, or sorry, not the total number. And the number that they have lost is L, right? So that would mean that the win over win plus loss, right? And this is before the district play, is equal to 45 over 100, which can also be simplified to 9 over 20, right? And then we can see during the district play, they won 6 more games and lost 2, finishing the season having won half their games. So win plus 2 over win plus loss plus 6 is equal to 1 over 2, right? So we are also given that. So now what we can do is we can multiply both sides out and we can get 2 equations. So now we would get 20w is equal to 9w plus 9 for the first equation. And okay. And then for the second equation, we'd get 2w plus, okay, wait, sorry. Oops, I messed up. Okay. So, okay, wait, sorry. Plus 9l, right? And then 2w plus 2 is equal to w plus l plus 6, right? So now we can simplify both these equations. So for this first one, we can get 11w equals 9l. And then for the second equation, we can get w is equal to l plus 4, right? And now because we have w equals l plus 4, we can plug that in for 11w equals 9l. And to do this, we would get 11l plus 44 is equal to 9l. And that simplifies to, okay, wait, sorry. I did the math wrong. Whoopsies. Okay, let me just redo that. Okay, so, and also this time I'm gonna make it neat. Okay, so win plus loss, so win over win plus loss is equal to 4.45, right? Which is equal to 9 over 20. And then we also know that win plus 6 over win plus loss plus, win plus 6 over 1 plus loss plus 8 is equal to 1 over 2, right? So we can simplify both of these equations by multiplying them out. So we get 20w is equal to 9w plus 9l. And then we get 2w plus 12 is equal to w plus l plus 8, right? So now we can simplify this equation on the right. We get w is equal to l minus 4, and then we can plug that in to w over here. So we first simplify the left equation. We get 11w equals 9l, and then we can plug in w equals l minus 4, and we get 11l minus 44 equals 9l. And then we subtract 11l from both sides, and we get negative 44 equals negative 2l. And then we simplified that to get 22 is equal to the number of losses. And then to find out how many wins they had, we know that wins are equal to we know that wins are equal to losses minus 4. So we get the wins are equal to 18, right? So that would mean that the wins before the district play are 18, the losses are 22. So that would mean before the district play, they had played 40 games, right? 22 plus 18 is 40. And then they played 8 more games. So that means that the final answer is 48 or A. So does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, does
No
anybody have
question.
If there aren't any questions, I will. Yeah, we are 6 minutes over. I'm sorry, everybody. I wasn't really in the class the last place because I was, I was kind of invading another classroom, but well, not really. But I was doing something. But the first place winner, in like just in terms of points, is Nikita. She got 8 points. So yeah, very nice participation.
Yeah.
Second place was Wanda. She got 4 points, and then third place we had a tie between Udip and Will, 2 points, and then fourth place or honorable mention is Nia. Yeah, so good job, you guys. That's
Good job,
very nice
everybody.
you guys participating. And the person at the end of the week with the most points will receive a virtual popsicle. So
Yeah.
it's the greatest honor. You might want to save it into your files and treasure it and cherish it forever if you receive it.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. So I will stop the recording. And if you guys have any questions, what?
The homework.
Oh, yeah, I'll put the homework in